welcome to the deep dive. You look at something like a city square, it seems pretty simple, right? But they often hold just immense significance, way more history and stories than you'd probably imagine. So today, we're taking a bit of a journey around the globe to explore exactly that, famous city squares. Our insights for this deep dive, they come from the source 10 Most Famous City Squares in the World by 10 Most Today. And our mission really is to uncover what makes these specific spots not just famous, but, central to history, culture, and, well, our collective imagination. It's about giving you that shortcut to being really well informed on some incredible places. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, it's really compelling when you think about it. City squares, I mean, at their core, they're designed as gathering places, but then so much just converges there. You've got power, protest, celebration, just everyday life. They kind of evolve into these living museums, constantly reshaping what they mean. So we'll explore what really defines a famous square and why these particular 10, the ones in our source, stand out from, well, all the others worldwide.
It's true. When you really think about it, a lot of the world's most famous squares, they aren't just, nice to look at. They are absolutely the epicenters of national power, of these pivotal historical moments. They're like these grand stages where the really dramatic chapters of a nation's story have played out. What is it about these particular spaces that lets them soak up and reflect such huge history?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, these squares, they don't just witness history, they actively become symbols of a nation's identity, its political journey. It's where collective memories are forged, often through very public, very significant events. Their
Oh,
physical presence, it kind of grounds these big abstract ideas in a real tangible
you
place.
see that straight away with Red Square in Moscow. The article points out its central location, right? Surrounded by these iconic buildings. It's Basil's Cathedral, the State History Museum, Lenin's Mausoleum, and obviously the Kremlin. It's called Russia's most recognizable landmark, often a tourist's very first stop. It just feels like the heart of the nation.
That's a really powerful point. Red Square doesn't just like display Russian history, it's sheer scale. The striking way it puts religious and political symbols right next to each other that actively projects Russia's unique mix, spiritual heritage, imperial power, the Soviet era stuff. It's all there. It's a living symbol of its often, let's say, contradictory identity, and I think that's what makes it resonate so much globally.
Okay, so from that symbolic heart of Russia, let's shift over to Asia, to Tiananmen Square in Beijing, China. Now, our source describes this as the largest city square in the world. It's surrounded by these Soviet-style monuments and government buildings. They even have a ceremonial flag raising and lowering dawn and dusk. But it gained world fame for a very somber reason, didn't it?
Yes, the source we're looking at makes it quite clear. Its global renown is largely tied to the Tiananmen Square massacre on June 4th, 1989. The article states, and we're quoting here, that troops with assault rifles and tanks inflicted thousands of casualties on unarmed civilians. We're presenting this as a factual detail from the source just to explain its historical weight. Tiananmen Square really serves as this powerful, though very somber reminder. It shows how just one event can completely redefine the global perception, the emotional feeling of a public space. It transforms it, from maybe a symbol of national pride into this constant echo of collective memory and, frankly, human cost.
Right. Moving on from those immense sort of politically charged spaces, let's look at Plaza de Mayo in Buenos Aires, Argentina. This square, it isn't just known for looking nice. It was the actual scene of the 25th of May, 1810 revolution, the one that ultimately led to Argentinian independence. And what's compelling, I think, is how it still seems to be the focal point for so many political events. Even today, you've got the Pyramid de Mayo there, the oldest national monument right in the center. And it's surrounded by the Casa Rosada, which is the president's executive mansion and office.
Its endurance, really, its enduring relevance as a political center over centuries is quite remarkable. I mean, lots of squares have historical significance, sure, but very few keep such an active, continuous role in a nation's current political life like Plaza de Mayo does. It seems to embody the nation's ongoing struggles and hopes, not just its founding moment.
And just south of the border, you have Zocalo, also known as Plaza de la Constitución, in Mexico City. The source describes it as one of the largest squares in the world, right in the heart of the historic center. It's flanked by the Metropolitan Cathedral, the National Palace, other historic buildings too. And there's this huge Mexican flag in the center. Apparently, it's ceremoniously lowered and raised every single day.
What's particularly compelling about Zocalo, I think, is its deep historical layering. It served as a continuous gathering place for people in Mexico going all the way back to Aztec times, which makes it this incredible living link to an ancient past, you know? But it's constantly being reinterpreted by new generations, new events. It's really a testament to the power of a single spot to hold, well, millennia of human activity.
And finally, for this section, let's jump across the pond. We have Trafalgar Square in London, England. This one's very specific. It commemorates Lord Horatio Nelson's victory against Napoleon's navy, the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. The main monument is that tall column, Nelson on top, surrounded by those four huge lions and big fountains.
Right. Trafalgar Square offers a different kind of expression of national identity, but it's equally powerful in its own way. It's maybe less about ongoing political action and more about commemorating a single defining moment of national triumph. Its design, the monument, they really solidify a specific historical story, making it a grand public monument to British naval power and, of course, a key figure in their history.
So you really start to see how these squares, they aren't just places on a map. They're these dynamic stages where nations define themselves, where history unfolds, and it keeps getting reinterpreted right in front of you. They become these like repositories of collective memory. Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's shift gears a bit. From that kind of monumental history to the vibrant pulse of just urban life. Some squares are these incredibly dynamic living hubs, full of activity, entertainment, really unique cultural stuff going on. How do these places manage that balance, holding on to historical significance while also being these busy centers of daily life and special events?
Yeah, that's an important question, actually, because it moves beyond just static monuments, right? It's about how a space can hold these incredible past events, but at the same time, adapt to be a constantly interacting part of the city today. It takes a certain fluidity, a flexibility in how they're used and how people see them.
Right. Take Times Square in New York. Our source straight up calls it the world's most famous square. It's at that junction of Broadway and 7th Avenue. It stretches quite a few blocks, 42nd to 47th Streets. And it's not really about ancient history there, is it? It's pure spectacle, just packed with video screens, LED signs, flashing lights everywhere. The source says it's best viewed at night when it's just ablaze with color. Plus, everyone knows it for the New Year's Eve ball drop. It's just constant, dazzling energy.
Times Square really exemplifies a different kind of fame, doesn't it? It's not steeped in centuries of political history, necessarily. It's more about its relentless, always changing energy, its status as this global pop culture icon. Its fame isn't built on what happened there way back when, but on what's happening right now, constantly, for this huge global audience. It's a space that literally never sleeps, driven by commerce and, well, spectacle.
And then, for something completely different, you have Gemma El Fena in Marrakech, Morocco, described as a major attraction, the heart of the Medina, that's the old walled part of the city. What makes it so magical, according to the source, is how it completely transforms throughout the day. Like in the morning, you've got snake charmers, people with monkeys.
Wow.
Yeah. Then as the day goes on, it gets busier. Storytellers, magicians, people selling traditional medicines. And then when it gets dark, it changes again, fills up to dozens of food stalls, and the crowds are apparently at their peak then.
Gemma El Fena really illustrates that idea of a fluid public space perfectly. It's constantly reinventing itself, not just from day to night, but you get the sense it's been doing that across centuries. It shows how these true cultural hubs, they adapt and thrive by embracing constant performance, constant exchange. It feels like a crucial anchor for the community, for tradition, even with modernization happening all around. It's a truly living, breathing square.
From bustling markets to architectural marvels.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Piazza del Campo in Siena, Italy. It has that really distinctive shell shape, makes it instantly recognizable. It's the main public space in Siena's historic center. Our source highlights its reputation, one of Europe's greatest medieval city squares, known for its sheer beauty, its architectural integrity. And what's really captivating is it hosts that famous horse race, the Palio, twice a year. Riders apparently circle the piazza 3 times on this thick layer of dirt laid down just for the race. Imagine that.
Yeah, it's beauty. And that architectural integrity, they aren't just, nice to look at. They're fundamental to how it works. That unique shell shape, it actually enhances its role as a gathering space and as an arena for things like the Palio. It's a perfect example of how form and function can just intertwine perfectly to create this enduring, celebrated urban space.
And finally for this segment, Old Town Square in Prague, Czech Republic. It's located between Wenceslas Square and the Charles Bridge. Apparently, it's often just bursting with tourists and locals, especially in the summer. It shows off all sorts of architectural styles. You've got the Gothic Tin Cathedral, the Baroque St. Nicholas Church. The source actually describes it as an oasis from Prague's narrow little streets. And of course, it's home to that world-famous astronomical clock.
The Old Town Square, yeah. With all that diverse architecture and the iconic clock, it serves as more than just a historical site. It really is that vital oasis from Prague's winding streets.
Right.
It's a place where history feels kind of accessible, welcoming, a central spot for relaxation, for cultural immersion. And the clock itself, I mean, it's a marvel of like ancient engineering, isn't it? Still drawing crowds with its unique hourly show, blending history with ongoing spectacle.
So you really get a sense of how these squares are places of constant motion, unique human interaction. They kind of invite you not just to observe, but to imagine yourself right there,
Yeah.
in the middle of it all, feeling the pulse of these incredible cities. Okay, now let's turn our attention to squares that really stand as testaments to, well, ancient history. Incredible engineering, profound beliefs. These are the kinds of places where you can almost feel the weight of centuries and the ingenuity of past civilizations.
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating here is exploring that historical layering in these spaces. How something seemingly simple, like an obelisk, can carry stories from millennia ago. And how monumental architecture just continues to impact us today, connecting us to the beliefs, the ingenuity of past civilizations. It's not just about what they are, but what they represent across vast stretches of time.
There's probably no better example of this than St. Peter's Square in Vatican City. It's located directly in front of St. Peter's Basilica. I mean, a truly grand setting. And right at the center of the ellipse, you find this Egyptian obelisk. Now, this wasn't built in Rome. It was actually transported all the way from Egypt during the reign of Emperor Augustus. And according to our source, it was moved to its current spot way later, in 1586.
What an incredible journey for a single piece of stone, right? And here's where the real depth comes in. Apparently, during the Middle Ages, there was this widespread belief that the sort of gilded ball on top of the obelisk actually contained the ashes of Julius Caesar.
Wow.
Yeah. But then, when that ancient metal ball was finally removed, centuries later, they found it was empty. This detail, it's just so compelling because it speaks volumes about the myths, the human curiosity that get embedded in these ancient structures over time. It shows how history isn't just about dry facts, but about the stories we tell ourselves and the continuous process of discovery, of revelation that happens within these sort of timeless spaces.
Yeah, those are exactly the kinds of details that make you connect with the past on a really human level. And they just remind you of the sheer scale of human endeavor throughout history. And, well, how some mysteries only get revealed centuries later. So we've journeyed through these incredible spaces, haven't we? From ancient gathering places that have stood for millennia to modern entertainment hubs just glowing with neon light. It really shows how these deep dives help you understand the world better. One fascinating detail, one surprising insight at a time.
It truly does. And what's so striking, I think, is how these spaces, despite all their global diversity, their different functions, they share this universal quality. They bring people together. There are communal stages for the human experience, whether that's, revolution or celebration or just the daily ebb and flow of life. This raises an important question for you to consider, really. What makes a public space truly great? Is it the history it holds, the beauty it offers? Or maybe its ability to constantly adapt to serve the changing needs of a modern city? How do the best ones balance all that?
Maybe the real magic of these famous squares. Maybe it isn't just their beauty or their history alone, but their incredible capacity to hold so many different stories, so much life, all in one central place. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What stories are waiting in the public spaces around you, just waiting to be discovered?